An alien bride rejected for her size. Picked by a widowed human, their fate shifts forever. Zyara had always known she was different. On her home planet of Lamora, most females were slender and delicate, designed to fit the traditions of her people. But Zyara was taller, stronger, and her presence was impossible to ignore. She moved with confidence, her long limbs flowing like the rivers of her world. But everywhere she went, whispers followed. Too large. Not suitable. She will never find a mate. These words had been repeated to her since childhood. Zyara had tried to conform, narrowing her movements, softening her voice, but had never worked. Her size was part of her, part her strength, part of her identity. And now, at the age of 125, the time had come when every Lumaran female was expected to choose a mate or be chosen. The grand hall of the Celestial Council buzzed with activity. Brides in flowing silk shimmered under the soft luminescence of the high ceilings. Zyara's heart sank as she stepped into the room. She had come hoping for acceptance, hoping that her qualities would finally be seen, not judged. The council members, tall and elegant, regarded her with polite curiosity. Zyara bowed gracefully, keeping her composure, but she felt the weight of their disapproval. "Zyara, your presence here is noted," said one council elder, his voice calm but firm. "However, you do not meet the standards we uphold for a bride. Your size, it is unconventional. We cannot approve a match for you at this time." Zyara's chest tightened. She had expected rejection, but hearing it aloud was like a cold wind cutting through her soul. She had spent her life striving to contribute to her society. She had excelled in diplomacy, science, and art, but none of that seemed to matter. Her body alone had defined her worth in the eyes of her people. She bowed deeply, fighting the sting of tears. "I understand," she said softly. "Thank you for your time." As she walked away, heads turned and hushed whispers followed. Zyara's shoulders were heavy, but her steps remained steady. She refused to collapse in front of those who could not see her true value. Later, she wandered to the observation balcony, a place overlooking Lumara's vibrant cities and glowing rivers. She inhaled the crisp air, hoping the sight of her world would bring her solace. But it could not erase the feeling of isolation. Zyara thought about her life, her studies, her inventions, the music she composed, the children she taught. She had given so much to her society, yet when it came to something deeply personal, she was cast aside. Her heart ached, not just for herself, but for the realization that her people could not see beyond appearances. Far away, across the stars, another world was experiencing its own quiet sorrow. On Earth, in a small city filled with gleaming towers and quiet research labs, Ethan Harper stared at the night sky. The loss of his spouse had left a void in his life, one that no amount of work or recognition could fill. He had dedicated himself to space exploration, hoping that discovering the unknown would ease the ache of loss. But the stars, beautiful as they were, offered no comfort. Ethan often wondered if he was meant to be alone forever. His days were filled with tasks, projects, and experiments, but his heart longed for connection. He missed the small things, the touch of a hand, the sound of laughter, the quiet conversations that made life meaningful. Meanwhile, a message arrived at Earth Space Agency, a notification of an incoming diplomatic delegation from Lamora. Scientists, diplomats, and observers were scheduled to visit for a cultural exchange and interstellar collaboration. Among them was Zyara, though her rejection had left her with little hope. The first encounter between Ethan and Zyara was accidental. She had been observing Earth from the observation deck of the research station, her eyes reflecting the blue oceans and silver cities below. Ethan had wandered up, seeking solitude from the bustling laboratory. Their eyes met. Zyara's gaze, curious and intelligent, held a depth Ethan hadn't encountered before. She was taller than most humans, her frame elegant and powerful, but it was her demeanor that struck him most, a quiet strength tempered by grace. "Hello," Ethan said cautiously, unsure why he felt compelled to speak. "Greetings," Zyara replied, her voice melodic, carrying a tone of calm assurance. "You are human, I presume?" "Yes," Ethan smiled softly. "Ethan Harper." "And you are?" "Zyara," she said simply. "I come from Lamora." The conversation began cautiously, with Ethan asking about her home, her work, and her culture. Zyara spoke with passion about her people, her inventions, and her love for the arts. Yet, there was an undercurrent of sadness he could not ignore. "You seem burdened," Ethan said gently, as if reading her unspoken thoughts. Zyara paused, surprised at his insight. "I have been rejected," she admitted, "by my people for reasons I did not fully understand." Ethan's heart tightened. He understood rejection intimately, though of a different kind. He nodded slowly. "I know how that feels. Sometimes the people who should see our value do not." A quiet understanding formed between them. Zyara felt a flicker of hope, something she hadn't felt in centuries. Perhaps Earth could offer her a new beginning, a place where worth was measured by character, not by size or appearance. Over the next few days, Ethan accompanied Zyara around the research station and the surrounding human city. She was fascinated by human technology, their art, their music, and the little routines of daily life. In turn, Ethan found himself captivated by her perspective on the universe, her intelligence, and the quiet strength that had never been acknowledged on Lamora. They visited libraries, observing humans attempt to catalog knowledge. They explored gardens, noticing how plants thrive despite environmental challenges. Zyara showed him lumbering innovations in energy and communication, bridging worlds through curiosity and intellect. Through these interactions, a bond began to grow. It was not immediate romance, but deeper connection, grounded in respect, shared experience, and the understanding of loss and hope. One evening, as they watched the twin moons of Earth rise over the horizon from the research station, Zyara spoke softly. "On Lamora, my life has always been measured by what I lack," she said. "I have given my all to my society, yet they turned away. Here, with you, I feel seen, not for what I am expected to be, but for who I truly am." Ethan placed a hand gently on the railing beside hers, feeling the energy that radiated from her presence. "Zyara, I cannot promise you the approval of others, but I can promise that you are seen here and now, and perhaps that matters more than anything else." Zyara looked at him, her eyes reflecting the glow of the moons. For the first time in her life, she felt a sense of belonging, not forced, not dictated by custom, but freely given and freely received. That night, as they parted to rest, both felt a subtle shift in their paths. Two souls, each carrying grief and rejection, had found a spark of understanding, a human widower and a rejected alien bride. Two beings from different worlds were beginning a journey that neither of them could have imagined. The stars stretched endlessly above, silent witnesses to the beginning of a bond that would reshape not only their lives, but perhaps the understanding between their worlds. Zyara returned to her quarters, heart heavy with hope and curiosity. Could this human companion truly see her as she was? Could the loneliness she had known for centuries finally fade? Ethan, lying awake in his room, felt a flicker of excitement he hadn't known in years. Perhaps life was offering him another chance, not to replace what he had lost, but to grow alongside someone who challenged and inspired him. The universe was vast, filled with countless possibilities. But for the first time, both Zyara and Ethan sensed that their paths had crossed for a reason. And though the journey ahead was uncertain, one truth was clear. The world, and perhaps the stars themselves, had shifted their fate forever. The sun rose over Earth's cities, golden light reflecting off the silver towers, and Zyara felt a curious excitement. Today, Ethan had promised to show her more human life outside the research station. She adjusted her flowing robe and stepped onto the observation deck, feeling the gentle morning breeze brush against her skin. Ethan was already there, reviewing a tableau of schematics, but he looked up as she approached. "Good morning, Zyara," he said with a warm smile. "Ready for today's adventure?" "Always," Zyara replied, her voice soft but lively. Despite her tall, strong figure, there was an elegance in the way she moved, a presence that drew attention without effort. Their first stop was a human garden, a green oasis amidst the concrete and steel. Zyara had seen plants on Lamora, but Earth's gardens were different. Small flowers leaned toward the sunlight. Vines climbed walls in patterns both chaotic and beautiful, and the air was rich with scents she had never known. "This is amazing," Zyara said, reaching out to touch a soft petal. "Humans have a way of shaping nature into art." Ethan chuckled. "It's our attempt to bring beauty into our busy lives. It doesn't always work, but I think it helps us feel connected. Zyara nodded thoughtfully. On Lamora, our cities are efficient and precise, but beauty is often sacrificed for order. Perhaps humans understand that life needs both. They walked through the garden, discussing differences in culture, technology, and philosophy. Zyara told Ethan about Lumra's innovations in energy efficiency and communication, while Ethan explained how humans approach problem-solving with creativity and persistence. As the day passed, Zyara began to see why Ethan had been so drawn to exploration. Humans may have been fragile compared to Lumerans, but they had an unmatched curiosity, a willingness to fail and try again, and a capacity for empathy that sometimes astonished her. At lunchtime, they sat under a shaded tree, sharing simple foods, fresh fruits, bread, and nuts. Zyara hesitated at first, unsure of human taste, but soon found herself enjoying the flavors. "This is delicious," she said, smiling. Lumeran cuisine is precise and nutrient-focused, but humans enjoy food as an experience. Ethan laughed softly. "That's part of our charm and our weakness. We make mistakes, but we celebrate them." Zyara felt a warmth in her chest. She had been rejected on her own planet for being different, for being strong and unique. But here, among humans, she felt that difference was valued. Ethan didn't just accept her. He seemed to celebrate her presence, her ideas, and her abilities. In the afternoon, Ethan took Zyara to a research lab where humans experimented with renewable energy and robotics. Zyara's eyes lit up as she saw machines designed to help people, drones that assisted with farming, and systems that harvested sunlight efficiently. "This is incredible," she said. "Your technology is so adaptable. You design for life itself, not just for perfection." Ethan nodded. "We try. Sometimes we fail, but that's how we learn." Zyara moved closer to examine a small robotic arm. She had designed similar devices on Lamora, but here she noticed the subtle differences. Humans design for flexibility, for resilience, for unpredictability. She realized that human innovation was often messy, but that messiness allowed for creativity and growth. "You see," Ethan said, noticing her fascination, "human strength isn't just physical. It's in our minds and hearts. We bend, we adapt, we try again. That's how we survive." Zyara smiled. She had lived a long life, facing challenges on her planet. But here she was learning a new kind of strength, not measured in size or appearance, but in resilience and spirit. As the day drew to a close, they visited a public space where humans gathered for music and storytelling. Zyara had never witnessed such spontaneous joy. Children laughed and ran, while adults shared tales of adventures and discoveries. The sound of music, simple yet full of emotion, stirred something deep inside her. On Lamora, music is formal, structured, Zyara said, tilting her head. It is beautiful, but predictable. Humans create something that moves the soul, even if it is imperfect. Ethan watched her quietly, feeling a bond growing stronger. "Perhaps imperfection is what makes it beautiful," he said softly. Zyara considered this. Her own life had been full of perfection in the eyes of society, but it had brought her little happiness. Here, with Ethan, she discovered that flaws could be embraced, that life could be joyful even when it was unpredictable. Days turned into weeks, and the bond between Zyara and Ethan deepened. They worked together on small projects, testing new communication devices, improving energy systems, and even creating art inspired by both Lumeran and human traditions. Zyara found herself laughing more than she had in decades. Ethan found himself inspired by her perspective, her confidence, and her courage to be herself. One evening, while observing the city from a quiet rooftop, Zyara spoke softly. "Ethan, I feel changed. On Lamora, I was judged for what I could not control. Here, I am valued for who I am." Ethan placed a hand gently on hers, their fingers brushing. "Zyara, you have always had worth. It's just others couldn't see it. But here, you're seen, truly seen." Zyara's heart swelled with a feeling she had not recognized before. Hope, acceptance, perhaps even the beginnings of trust. Their time together did not go unnoticed. A delegation of Lumerans arrived on Earth to observe Zyara. At first, they carried the same cold judgments, their expressions masking curiosity and mild disdain. But as they watched her interact with humans, solve problems, and communicate with Ethan, their attitudes began to shift. She has adapted, one Lumaran commented quietly, and she contributes significantly. She has found her place, even among humans, another murmured, almost reluctantly. Zyara felt a sense of pride, not from their acknowledgement, but from her own recognition of her growth. She had been rejected, yes, but here she was creating, learning, and thriving. She had found someone who valued her, and a world that offered possibilities she had never imagined. One evening, as they walked through a quiet park, Ethan asked, "Do you miss Lamora?" Zyara paused, looking at the stars above. "I do, sometimes. It is my home, and my people shaped me. But I am learning that home is not just a place. It is where you are understood, where you are valued, and where you can grow." Ethan nodded. "Then perhaps Earth is becoming your home too." Zyara smiled. "Perhaps it is." As the night deepened, they sat together under the stars, sharing stories of their lives, their losses, and their dreams. Zyara spoke of her inventions, her failed attempt at fitting in, and her hopes for the future. Ethan shared memories of his spouse, his grief, and his longing for connection. Through these conversations, they discovered not only shared understanding, but complementary strengths. Zyara's intelligence and creativity merged with Ethan's patience and insight, forming a partnership that felt natural, effortless, and inspiring. By the end of Part 2, the two had come to understand that their bond was more than friendship. It was a meeting of minds and hearts, a connection that transcended worlds, species, and expectations. Together, they faced the challenges of learning from one another, exploring differences, and building something that neither had thought possible, a partnership rooted in respect, curiosity, and genuine affection. For Zyara, the pain of rejection began to fade, replaced by the excitement of possibility. For Ethan, the loneliness that shadowed his life began to lift, replaced by the hope of companionship and shared discovery. And high above them, in the endless stretch of space, the stars seemed to shine brighter, as if signaling the beginning of something extraordinary. The days on Earth grew warmer as spring approached, painting the city in colors Zyara had never seen on Lamora. Pink blossoms swayed in gentle breezes, and children's laughter echoed in parks she had begun to love. But amidst the beauty, a shadow lingered in Zyara's thoughts. Her people had not forgotten her. A formal message from Lamora had arrived. They requested her return. Respect, recognition, and a prestigious position awaited her if she agreed. They even offered assurances that her size would no longer be an issue. Yet, deep inside, Zyara hesitated. She had spent centuries trying to fit into a society that valued appearances above all else. Now, on Earth, she had found something far more valuable: understanding, respect, and friendship with a human who saw her for who she truly was. Zyara struggled to sleep that night, her mind racing. The Lumaran offer was tempting. It promised acceptance, status, and a return to her roots. But she felt a growing pull toward Earth, toward Ethan and the life she had started to build. The next morning, she shared her dilemma with Ethan as they walked along the river. "Ethan," she began, her voice uncertain, "my people, they want me back. They promise respect and recognition. But I don't know if that is enough anymore." Ethan listened carefully, his brow furrowed in thought. "Zyara, the choice must be yours. Not theirs. Not mine. You have to decide what makes you happy, not what will impress others." Zyara looked at him, her heart softening. His words were simple, yet powerful. On Lamora, no one had ever asked her what she wanted. They had decided for her, judged her for her size, and treated her worth as less than others. Here, with Ethan, she felt for the first time that her voice mattered. I don't know if I can go back," she admitted. "I feel freer here, safer, and happier." Ethan reached out, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Then maybe this is where you belong. Not because you were rejected, but because you choose to be here." Days passed, and Zyara immersed herself further into Earth's world. She studied human systems, taught children about Lumaran science, and collaborated with Ethan on small projects to improve local communities. She noticed how humans solve problems, not with strength or perfection, but with ingenuity, persistence, and care. One afternoon, while monitoring energy levels in a local power grid, Zyara noticed an anomaly. Solar arrays on the outskirts of the city were producing inconsistent power. It was minor at first, but over the next hours, the problem grew, threatening to disrupt essential services. Ethan and Zyara worked side by side, analyzing data, running simulations, and testing solutions. Zyara's Lumeran knowledge of energy systems, combined with Ethan's understanding of human infrastructure, created a synergy neither had anticipated. Hours passed, and the sun dipped below the horizon. City lights flickered as the anomaly intensified, and both felt the weight of responsibility. "We can fix this," Zyara said firmly, her voice steady. "We just need to focus, step by step." Ethan nodded, trusting her judgment. Agreed, let's do this together. They devised a plan to redistribute energy from stable sectors, recalibrate solar arrays, and reroute power temporarily. Zyara guided technicians with precision, explaining complex systems in simple, understandable terms. Ethan coordinated with city officials, ensuring safety and efficiency. By nightfall, their combined efforts restored stability. Light shone across the city, and systems resumed normal operation. Zyara and Ethan finally stood together on a rooftop, exhausted but triumphant. "You were amazing," Ethan said, looking at her with admiration. "I couldn't have done this without you." Zyara smiled, feeling a surge of pride. For the first time, she realized that her size, her differences, her uniqueness, all the things Lamora had rejected, were strengths here. They had allowed her to think creatively, lead confidently, and solve problems effectively. Just then, a message from the Lumeran delegation arrived, congratulating her on the successful intervention. They expressed admiration for her abilities and hinted at new respect upon her return. Zyara read the message silently, her heart calm. She no longer felt the old fear or need for approval. "Do you feel tempted?" Ethan asked gently. Zyara shook her head. "No, I am grateful for my people, but I belong here with you with humans who see me." Ethan smiled. "Then the choice is clear, and I'm glad you made it for yourself." That night, under a sky sprinkled with stars, Zyara shared more of her past with Ethan. She spoke of the rejection, the pressure to conform, and the loneliness she had endured. Ethan listened, never interrupting, his presence offering comfort and understanding. "I have spent so long trying to fit into a mold," Zyara said softly. "But here, with you, I am free to be myself. And that is worth more than any recognition or title." Ethan reached for her hand, holding it gently. "Zyara, you are remarkable, not because of what you've achieved, but because of who you are, and I am grateful to be part of your journey." The bond between them had grown beyond friendship. It was a partnership of minds and hearts, built on trust, mutual respect, and shared experiences. They laughed together, worked together, and began to dream together. A few days later, another challenge emerged, this time in the natural world. A rare atmospheric phenomenon caused a temporary imbalance in the local climate systems, affecting crops, water supply, and energy distribution. Local officials were uncertain how to respond, but Zyara saw an opportunity to apply both her Lumeran expertise and Ethan's understanding of human systems. They spent long hours analyzing weather patterns, predicting outcomes, and proposing adjustments to protect the environment. Their work inspired city officials and local engineers, who began to appreciate Zyara's unique perspective and collaborative approach. Through these experiences, Zyara noticed something remarkable. Humans, while fragile in some ways, were incredibly adaptable. They listened, learned, and worked together in ways her own people sometimes struggled to do. And humans, she realized, valued contribution over conformity, a concept foreign to Lamora. One evening, after successfully stabilizing the climate systems, Ethan and Zyara stood on a hill overlooking the city. The lights glimmered like stars fallen to earth, and a gentle breeze carried the scent of blooming flowers. "Ethan," Zyara said, turning to him, "I understand now. The place I belong, it is not determined by where I come from, but by where I am valued, where I can contribute, and where I am understood." Ethan smiled, brushing her hand with his. "And that place is here, with us, together." Zyara felt a warmth in her chest, a sense of peace she had never known. The pain of rejection, the loneliness of centuries, and the pressure to conform, all of it seemed distant now. She had found something more powerful than approval: freedom, acceptance, and genuine connection. But Zayara also knew that life would not always be simple. Challenges would arise, both on Earth and from afar. Her people might continue to question her choices, and the human world had its own complexities. Yet, with Ethan by her side, she felt prepared to face whatever came next. Their partnership was no longer just a meeting of two beings from different worlds. It was a collaboration of minds, hearts, and spirits, a union that demonstrated the strength of trust, respect, and understanding. As they watched the city glow under the night sky, Zayara realized that her journey was far from over. She had faced rejection, endured loneliness, and questioned her place in the universe. But now, she had made a choice, not for approval, not for duty, but for herself. And that choice would shape the rest of her life in ways she could only begin to imagine. Ethan looked at her, sensing her thoughts. "Whatever comes next," he said softly, "we face it together." Zayara nodded, a smile playing on her lips. "Together," she agreed. In that moment, beneath the stars and the quiet hum of the city, two lives intertwined. A rejected alien bride and a widowed human had discovered that connection, respect, and understanding were far more valuable than any societal expectation or external judgment. Their bond was not only personal. It was a bridge between worlds, a testament to the possibilities that arise when individuals are valued for who they truly are. As they stood together, Zayara felt a sense of certainty she had never known. She had made her choice, embraced her path, and discovered a new kind of strength, the kind that comes from freedom, love, and mutual respect. And somewhere across the stars, her people watched silently, beginning to understand that the measure of a being was not in their size, appearance, or conformity, but in their heart, mind, and spirit. For Zayara and Ethan, the future stretched ahead like a river of light, filled with endless possibilities, discoveries, and the joy of being together. And for the first time in a long time, both felt truly at home. Spring had fully arrived on Earth, painting the cities in soft greens and vibrant blossoms. The air was filled with life, the laughter of children, the hum of machinery, and the gentle whisper of wind through the trees. Zayara walked alongside Ethan, feeling a calm she had never known before. The decision had been made. She would stay on Earth, building a life alongside Ethan. Lumira's invitations had ceased to carry the weight they once did, and she no longer felt the need to prove her worth to those who could not see it. Here, she was valued, appreciated, and understood. Ethan had arranged a small ceremony, blending human customs with some Lumiran traditions Zayara had brought from her world. It was simple, private, and filled with meaning. Friends from Earth, scientists, colleagues, and neighbors gathered alongside a few curious Lumirans who had come to observe and learn. Zayara stood tall, her elegant frame illuminated by the glow of soft lights strung across the garden where the ceremony took place. Ethan's presence beside her was steadying, a reminder that their partnership was based not on ceremony or approval, but on mutual respect and understanding. The ceremony began with words of acknowledgement. Zayara spoke first, her voice carrying confidence and warmth. "I have traveled far, from Lamora, a world that judged me for what I could not change, to Earth, where I have been embraced for who I am. Today, I choose to honor that journey and to build a future with someone who sees me, values me, and walks with me as an equal." Ethan stepped forward, taking her hand gently. "Zayara, I have known loss, grief, and solitude, but with you, I have discovered hope, partnership, and joy. I promise to walk beside you, to learn with you, and to face whatever the universe brings together." Their words were simple yet profound. The Lumirans present nodded quietly, impressed not only by the ceremony, but by the clear connection and respect shared between the two beings from different worlds. After the ceremony, celebrations were modest, but filled with laughter, music, and shared stories. Zayara introduced Lumiran music to humans, blending it with Earth's rhythms, creating melodies that felt both familiar and entirely new. Children danced, adults clapped, and Ethan watched Zayara with pride and admiration. "This," Ethan said softly, "is perfect." Zayara smiled, feeling a sense of completion. "It is more than I imagined, not because it is perfect, but because it is ours." In the following weeks, Zayara and Ethan began work on their shared vision, a collaborative research institute dedicated to combining human and Lumaran knowledge for the benefit of both worlds. Their first project focused on sustainable energy solutions, improving technology that could protect the environment while aiding human communities. Zyara's knowledge of Lumaran energy systems paired with Ethan's understanding of human infrastructure proved revolutionary. Together, they designed solar arrays that adapted automatically to weather patterns, water filtration systems that required minimal human maintenance, and communication devices capable of bridging species-specific languages. Their work attracted attention, not just on Earth, but back on Lamora. Officials who had once rejected Zyara began to recognize the potential in collaboration, seeing that true value lay not in conformity, but in innovation, dedication, and heart. Zyara often reflected on her journey, amazed by how far she had come. She had been rejected, isolated, and undervalued on her own planet. Yet here, she had found respect, love, and a purpose that fulfilled her completely. One evening, as they reviewed data on their latest project, Ethan looked up at Zyara. "Do you ever miss Lamora?" he asked. Zyara paused, considering the question. "Sometimes. I miss parts of it. The rivers, the stars, the music. But I no longer feel the need to belong there. My home is where I am valued, where I can contribute, and where I am understood. And that is here." Ethan nodded, reaching for her hand. "Then this is our home, together." Beyond the work, their personal lives flourished. Zyara and Ethan spent quiet mornings in the garden, evenings watching the twin moons rise, and weekends exploring nearby forests, rivers, and mountains. They shared meals, stories, and dreams, learning not only about each other but about the worlds they came from. The Institute also became a bridge between humans and Lumarans. Through Zyara and Ethan's leadership, Earth began to host exchanges, workshops, and joint projects. Lumarans were amazed at human adaptability and creativity, while humans marveled at Lumaran technology and wisdom. Prejudice and fear slowly gave way to curiosity and respect. Zyara, once rejected for her size, became a symbol of possibility. Her presence proved that differences could be strengths, that unique perspectives could inspire progress, and that collaboration between species, cultures, and individuals could achieve remarkable outcomes. One afternoon, as they walked along a newly planted avenue of trees, a young human girl approached Zyara. "Are you really from another world?" the child asked, eyes wide with wonder. Zyara knelt to the girl's height, smiling warmly. "Yes, I am. And you, little one, can do anything you dream of, whether it's here on Earth or somewhere among the stars." The girl beamed, inspired by Zyara's presence and words. Zyara realized then that her impact extended far beyond scientific discoveries. She was helping shape the next generation, teaching them that differences were to be celebrated and that courage and kindness mattered more than appearance or conformity. Ethan watched from a distance, pride swelling in his chest. "You're amazing," he said softly. Zyara turned to him, their hands brushing. "We are amazing," she corrected gently, "because we do this together." As time passed, their institute flourished. Projects addressing environmental sustainability, interstellar communication, and cultural exchange expanded. Humans and Lumarans worked side by side, learning from each other's strengths and forging bonds that transcended planets. Zyara and Ethan also explored new frontiers in their personal partnership. They learned each other's habits, adapted quirks, and celebrated shared joys. They laughed at mistakes, comforted each other during difficult moments, and found simple pleasures in quiet evenings under the stars. One evening, after a long day of research and planning, Zyara and Ethan stood on the roof of their institute, gazing at the horizon. The city stretched before them, lights twinkling like distant galaxies, and the twin moons hung low in the sky. "Do you ever think about how far we've come?" Ethan asked. Zyara smiled, leaning her head on his shoulder. "Every day. I remember rejection, loneliness, and the fear of not belonging. And now I have purpose, partnership, and a life filled with meaning." Ethan nodded, squeezing her hand. "And we built this together. From two very different worlds, we created something beautiful." Zyara looked at him, eyes shining. "Yes, and it shows that when beings respect and value each other, anything is possible. We are stronger together, humans, Lumarans, and all who wish to learn and grow." As they stood in silence, a gentle breeze stirred the trees, carrying the promise of new discoveries, new friendships, and new adventures. The universe, vast and full of mysteries, felt less daunting when faced together. High above, stars twinkled in silent acknowledgement, as if celebrating the bond between a rejected alien bride and a widowed human who had found hope, love, and purpose in each other. Their story was no longer just personal. It was a beacon for others, a testament to what could happen when understanding, kindness, and collaboration guided choices. Zyara and Ethan's future was no longer uncertain. They had built a home, a life, and a legacy together, and they knew that as long as they faced the world side by side, no challenge could diminish their connection or the impact they could make. With a final glance at the glowing city below, Zyara whispered, "Our journey has only just begun." Ethan smiled, holding her close. "And I wouldn't want to be anywhere else but here with you." The stars above reflected their quiet joy. The earth beneath their feet carried the promise of shared discovery, and the universe seemed just a little smaller, warmer, and brighter because of the bond they had forged. And so, two lives from different worlds intertwined, not by obligation or expectation, but by choice, understanding, and love. A rejected alien bride and a human widower had found each other, proving that connection, courage, and respect could bridge even the greatest divides. In this shared future, they would continue to learn, grow, and inspire together. And in doing so, they reminded everyone that true strength is not in size, species, or conformity, but in heart, mind, and spirit.